Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We're just going to wait a couple minutes for everyone to filter in and get to their virtual seats, and we'll begin shortly. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming in. I'm just going to wait another minute or two for a few more attendees to join, and we'll begin shortly. Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's 12:02. We'll begin the webinar for today. Very exciting about our new booster pack that is launching. So hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Eric Bitmanis. I am the Program Manager for Private Sector Innovation here at Canary. Just as a warning, we are recording this presentation. So if you are uncomfortable having your questions recorded, just be mindful that we will be posting it on YouTube shortly after the webinar concludes. If you'd like to, of course, ask a question during the presentation, please do so using the QA option here in Zoom. You can find it on the lower panel along the bottom of the screen. We have a couple spots during the presentation where we will address questions. So feel free to write questions in the QA panel at any time, and we'll get to them during those periods. Now I'd like to pass it over to my colleague, Annie Jolicoeur, for our introduction in French. Annie?
Merci Eric. Bonjour à tous et bienvenue à notre webinaire d'aujourd'hui. Juste avant de commencer, quelques petites notes. Donc, le webinaire est enregistré et va être disponible sur YouTube sous peu. Également, si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à utiliser la fonction Q&A au bas de votre écran. Vous pouvez les publier à tout moment durant le webinaire. Il va y avoir des moments, il y a des moments prévus là, pour répondre aux questions, alors n'hésitez pas. Et sur ce, bonne présentation. Eric, à toi.
Merci beaucoup, Annie. Thank you very much. Let's move on to our agenda for today. So we're going to go through some quick DARE updates and news before launching into the meat of today's webinar, which is the automated document classification booster pack, which will be presented by Mike Friesen and Regan Wolfram from FormKiQ. And then we'll close the day out with some Q&A and any other questions, comments at the end. So moving on to DARE updates and news, we do have some very big changes to announce for the DARE program in the coming months. The first is that AWS services are coming to the DARE cloud. We are launching AWS services on August 24th and ushering in a whole new DARE cloud for everybody. Some of the services we'll be launching with include Lambda, RDS, IAM Identity Center, API Gateway, and more. We will be releasing a AWS services roadmap for how we will be releasing new services as we move into the future. And we greatly encourage your feedback on what services you'd like to see us implement next. So to do so, please reach out to us on email or Slack, and you can help influence how we build out our AWS roadmap and what services will be coming next to the DARE cloud. The second large change is how we are allocating GPU resources. We'll now be offering a more hands-on approach for GPU resource allotments in DARE's private cloud. We are also now providing a larger amount of GPU resources to better meet the development needs of the DARE community. If you'd like access to GPUs in DARE, please reach out to us either via email, Slack, or mark that you'd like access to GPUs in your DARE application form. At this time, we currently do have a waitlist developing for GPU resources. So if you would like to access a GPU in the DARE cloud, please do let us know so we can add you to our queue. The third major change in the DARE cloud is the DARE participant spending limit. So to better meet the needs of the DARE community and SMEs in Canada, we are raising our spending limit from $300 a month to $800 a month. This is effective immediately, so feel free to utilize those extra resources. And after launch of the AWS services in August, expect to see another increase in this monthly budget from $800 a month to $1,000 a month to better allow you to utilize these newly enabled AWS services, as well as to continue to develop your products and services here in Dare. If you have any questions regarding this participant budget increase, please do reach out to us via Slack or email. Also coming with our move, also coming with the launch of AWS services at the end of not at the end of August, not at the end of AWS. At the end of August is we will be moving away from supporting Microsoft Azure. We have reached out to Microsoft Azure users here in the Dare Cloud, but if you have not responded to your email, please do so, and we can aid in migration from Azure to AWS. And finally, the fourth major announcement. I know we have a lot of major announcements. We have numerous upcoming webinars slotted for the coming months, beginning today with the launch of the automated document classification and discovery booster pack made by FormKiQ, the launch of AWS services in August, Amazon's culture of innovation in September, SOC 2 compliance for SMEs and entrepreneurs coming in October, and many more to come in November, December, and January. So please stay tuned to your inboxes to see those new webinars as they approach. With that all finished, I would like to pass it on to both Mike and Regan to talk about the new automated document classification booster pack that has been launched by FormKiQ. So I will pass it over to Mike and Regan and swap the slides over.
All right, so Eric, you're swapping in the other PowerPoint?
Awesome. I am. 2 seconds on that.
Perfect. I'm just very excited.
There we go. All right, there's my share. There's the PowerPoint. Wonderful. Can everyone see that? Do you see that, Regan?
Oh, I can see it.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
All right. Have at it.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Regan Wolfram. I'm one of the co-founders of FormKiQ, and I'll take you through some of these exciting slides. So yes, this is the automated document classification and discovery booster pack, which allows you to automate the creation of document metadata with artificial intelligence. So we can move to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about FormKiQ and our little friend Kick the Kangaroo over there on the right. We are a flexible document management platform. We were founded in 2016 in Winnipeg. And really what we offer is something that's pretty new in the space. It's an API-first platform for document storage, processing, transformation, integration, and discovery. It's really about making it easier to implement document management functionality in various products. So whether you're a startup, you're a large organization, there is something that we can definitely help you with as part of your document management functionality. And of course, that includes some advanced things like optical character recognition, intelligent document processing, like we're talking about today, and workflows. And we have teams that are using us worldwide. We can hop to the next slide. Ooh, hop like a kangaroo. So basically about us, we've got some reason I think I messed up and I didn't put the text on here. It disappeared, but basically our team is about 7 right now. We have about 5 engineers who work with us, and some of those engineers actually are AWS certified, including Mike, who's one of the co-founders, and AWS certified solutions architect. And we've been working in a lot of different industries. We have experience in retail, insurance, e-commerce, education, across a wide array of industries, media as well. And I myself, I'm a platform engineering specialist. I have a background in e-commerce engineering and site reliability. So we have people working on our front end or back end all over the place. And all of us are pretty big fans of AWS. So we're very excited about this announcement about Canary and Dare really focusing on AWS because we think that's a great cloud to innovate on. All right, we can pop to the next slide. All right, so let's talk about the actual problem at hand. So document discovery and recall, it's a huge problem for a lot of organizations. There's a lot of inefficiencies here. And a lot of that's due to context. So in order to discover and recall documents, you need to have context. It's essential, and creating the metadata that gives you that context is often very manual and time consuming. And then also just trying to retrieve documents can be very time consuming. I mean, even myself, right before this meeting, I was trying to grab some information in my Google Drive folder that I had. And it took me like 10 minutes to find something because I didn't have any kind of metadata to track it down. I had to remember the file name of the file or else I was lost. So basically, another aspect of that is human error, right? I mean, if you're going to be creating metadata manually, then you might miskey something might be put into the wrong category. So obviously anything we can do to automate that process is going to be quite welcome. And that's where we can hop to the next slide and we talk about the actual solution. Intelligent automation. So what we're doing is we look at optical character recognition so you can get the document's content, natural language processing, and full text search. And that allows the automated document classification and discovery BoosterPack to automate the creation of that metadata, which will allow you to discover and recall data much more quickly. All right, we can hop to the next one. So how do we want to use something like this? Well, here's some use cases. Construction and engineering is obviously a huge industry that there are a lot of startups and other vendors and products that are trying to get into this industry and really start the digitization, but they're a little behind. So one of the things that they really need is, automated validation and routing during those ball and court document control processes. You've got an engineer, you've got construction, you've got architects, you've got regulators, you have all of these different people, all these different stakeholders who need to be able to get access to documents at the right time. And you need to be able to prevent high impact errors while managing multiple projects and job sites. If you accidentally miskey some data on what kind of cabling you need and you order the wrong cabling, that could be millions of dollars in delays. Legal discovery is another big one. We actually have a customer where this is a huge thing for them because they have a huge amount of files that they receive in the discovery process. So being able to respond and review document requests and get actual searches into the discovery documents that they've been provided is a huge challenge. And so being able to have named entity metadata where you can actually pull out the names of parties involved, the names of organizations, times, locations, that really speeds up that discovery process. And of course, the idea of trying to do that manually would be insurmountable. And of course, financial services is another big one where you can automate document review during the application and audit processes because you have valid metadata. And you may get financial documents of all sorts of formats. I mean, you probably received invoices in 70 different structures, right? So being able to take that, OCR that, process that, and then be able to, sort and recall that is a huge deal. All right, we can hop to the next one. So what is this automated document classification and discovery BoosterPack? Well, as I kind of mentioned before, it uses natural language processing, which is what you see with ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, and machine learning algorithms to automatically categorize and tag documents based on their content, allowing users to quickly search and retrieve those documents, discovery, recall, based on generated keywords or document tags. So as with all the other BoosterPacks that have come through with DARE, this solution leverages open source tools. So you can customize them. You have a whole lot of control. You can, mix and match, swap it out, and really for whatever your specific business use case is. All right, we can hop to the next one. I'm probably overusing the word hop, but I'm probably going to keep doing it. I'm kind of committed to it. So technology-wise, we're using React.js for our interface, which allows you to upload the documents and run the searches. And then, of course, the backend for that, we're using Java Spring Boot and Micronaut for the API. We do event streaming using Kafka, and the OCR is using Tesseract. And then when it came to the natural language processing, that was interesting because we had a few different options. There's a few different tools. We ended up using this PyTorch. We found that that was the easiest to work with the other technology that we had. It just worked better for us. But then, of course, you're kind of stuck with whatever models are available for that particular tool. And then for the search, we have full text search and metadata storage using Elasticsearch. So as we create the metadata, we throw it into Elasticsearch, which allows that really flexible searching. Elasticsearch is really popular because it's one of the best for that kind of search. And of course, you can have that open source version. All right, we can hop to the next one. Okay, let's look at the architecture. So we've got, of course, the React UI. We've got our API that runs that. We send it to Kafka. We've got the Micronaut workers that then handle the OCR, and then they also handle the actual AI piece where they send that request to PyTorch to get back the results. And then it then loads that information into the document search, into Elasticsearch. And then, of course, the UI through the API is able to make those requests and recover those documents as you need them. All right, we can hop to the next one. Okay, so now it is my co-founder Mike's time to shine. He's going to take you through this magical adventure. So Mike, if you're ready, I'm going to depart and you can get to it.
Awesome. Thank you, Regan. Let me share my screen. I think, unlike Regan, I'm going to not use the hop to the next slide. Okay. So, as probably most of you are familiar with, if anyone has already used a Dare Booster Pack, on the Canary website, there is a Dare Booster Pack catalog page. And just recently, they have added the FormKiQ automated document classification and discovery booster pack. So as part of every booster pack, there are two main parts to it. There is the flight plan, and then there is the sample solution. So I'm going to go through the flight plan, the sample solution, and then we'll show you how to set up the booster pack, and then we'll do a little demo of how seeing the booster pack actually in action. So for the flight plan, the flight plan is really to show you, give you a general overview on how the booster pack works. And so as Regan's already talked about, we have an overview of how the booster pack, what the booster pack does. It allows you to track documents using natural language processing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. It talks about how, some of the values it will add to your business. So one of the big things that it is open source. It's cloud agnostic, so if you don't want to run it on AWS, you actually could run it in a different cloud. You could take the code and you could run it in your own cloud. It uses a microservices-based architecture, so this is really nice for people who want to extend and build on top of this booster pack. You can add your own functionality to it. You can integrate with your existing systems, and you have really unlimited options and what you can do with it. So I'll just kind of touch on some of the other things. So best practices, the booster pack uses HTTPS encryption. I'll kind of go over that when I go through the demo, but the booster pack uses Let's Encrypt to generate SSL certificates. So you can generate free certificates to protect the data transfer between your machine and the booster pack. We also are using a website called NIP.io, which allows us to use free domains to run our booster pack. So when you want to use an SSL certificate, you need to have a domain name. So then using a combination of Let's Encrypt and NIP.io allows you to run your booster pack in a really mature fashion, where you can have a website URL that you can go to and you can log in, and then you can interact with the booster pack. So some of the tips that we learned while building this booster pack was really about using Let's Encrypt to generate SSL certificates. It's a really great tool to get you up and running with setting up an SSL certificate, and using NPIO is another really great option where you don't have to go through the expense of registering domain names and setting all those things up. You can just use NPIO. It uses the IP address of your machine running in the Dare cloud, and then it automatically gives you a domain name that you can use. And then one of the other big things we learned was huggingface.co is a great tool for if you are into learning about how to use AI and machine learning in your own projects. They have a whole lot of different resources and pre-trained data models that you can use in your applications today, and they're all free to use, which is really great. Then down here in the flight plan, we also have some resources and some tutorials about different resources we used when we created this booster pack. So you can go on these links to kind of learn more about all the different components in the booster pack. Like Micronaut was the framework we used to build all the API components. Tesseract was the OCR, and then of course Apache Kafka was used to coordinate all the processing of the documents. And then, of course, Elasticsearch, is a really great place to store lots of data and allows you to do all that with complicated or flexible searching that you people need to do in today's business environment. And then at the bottom here, you see that here's a link to our GitHub page that contains all the documentation and all the code for the BoosterPack. So you can feel free to fork that repository and make your own changes or build your own extensions on top of that, because everything is open source and free to use. And of course, if you have any problems using the BoosterPack, here are these different support options that you can use in order to contact us or contact Canary to have your questions answered or address any issues that you may come across. So that's the flight plan. So the next part is the sample solution document. So in the sample solution document, it really goes over how do you deploy and configure the BoosterPack. So I'm going to kind of go over, we kind of touched on this already quite a bit, so I'll kind of just skim over this. But with the BoosterPack, there's an API that receives a document and it uses Kafka to then coordinate the OCRing and the machine learning algorithms that we run against it, and then finally to store it in Elasticsearch for then later retrieval. Here's kind of a description of the different components. We've kind of gone over this already, but the one big thing I should point out here is the React UI was the UI that we chose, but since it uses an API, a microservices infrastructure, you actually could have any type of UI. If you wanted to use a mobile app or you wanted to use Angular or an in-house application, all those things would be supported, and you can just call the same APIs that the React UI currently calls. So the next section here, it kind of goes into details on how to configure the BoosterPack. I'm going to kind of skip over this right now, and I'm going to go through this in greater detail using the Dare console so that you can kind of get a full experience on how to configure and deploy the BoosterPack. After this, so the last thing is once your BoosterPack is deployed, I'll go through this. It'll be available publicly on an HTTPS URL here, and I'll show you how you can get the external IP address and the domain in order to connect to your BoosterPack. I think. Yeah, so I think after that, there's a few other details here, but I think we're going to jump into the actual demo, and we can kind of give you show you how you can configure the BoosterPack and then be able to run your own. So here is my Dare Cloud instance that I'm sure most of you are very familiar with. The main thing to set up the BoosterPack is that the BoosterPack uses a two-server infrastructure. That means we run the API on one server, but then we run on the Elasticsearch on its own separate server. And the reason why we do this is so that you can easily scale which server you need to scale. So if you have lots of users that are querying your data, you're going to need a larger Elasticsearch server. You may not need as large an API server. So you can go ahead and you can make that Elasticsearch server larger to meet your business needs. On the other hand, if you don't have a lot of documents, but you do a lot of machine learning processing and you need to scale out the API to be able to support a lot more users that are using the API, well, you can do that too. And that's why the real benefit of having two servers is that you can scale them independently and so it can really meet your business needs. So one of the things we need to do is configure those two servers to be able to talk to each other. So the way we configure that is through our infrastructure. So if we click on the infrastructure here and we look at the network, right here it shows all the networks that are set up in your Dare Cloud account. So we are going to be deploying into the AWS network. So if we look here, the first one here, it says the AWS, the Amazon subnet, and here is the actual Amazon subnet that is configured in our account. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that the API server can talk to the Elasticsearch server. And the way we do that is we grab this IP address and we go to our security groups, and then we click on our AWS security group. And then in here, we have to add a rule. So we could go here, you could add a rule. And what this rule will be is we need to create a ingress rule for that network. And we have to do it on the 9200 address. And then by adding this rule, we'll allow the API server and the Elasticsearch server to be able to communicate between each other. Then we also need to add 2 more additional rules. So we need to allow HTTP and HTTPS traffic into our API server. So we do that by adding another custom rule, also an ingress rule. For the, in this case, we're allowing the entire internet to connect to the server, but you could definitely change this to your own IP address. That would allow only your IP address to be able to connect to it. And then we allow on port 80, and then we create another one for port 443. Now, if you connect to the BoosterPack on port 80, what it will do, it will automatically redirect you to the HTTPS request. So your traffic is always fully encrypted and protected. So once we have the security group set up, we can then go ahead and deploy our BoosterPack. So if you go to provisioning and then here to the catalog, and we scroll down to the bottom, we have here is the FormKiQ intelligent document classification and discovery. So now we can go ahead and order that BoosterPack. And then we will need to provide a few pieces of information. We need an application name. So in this case, we're creating a demo. And then we're going to deploy this to AWS Canada. We select our cloud, our pool. We select the network. And then we select that default security group because that is the security group that has our configuration we just created. And then the last 2 things is the username and password. So once the BoosterPack deploys, this would be the username and password you would use to log into the BoosterPack. So you want to make sure that the password is the really complicated one, just so then it's protected that way. And then, as I mentioned before, you could also use the security group rules to restrict which IP addresses are allowed to connect to the BoosterPack. Once you fill this information, you can then click the order now, and then it will go ahead and deploy the BoosterPack into your account. Now, the BoosterPack will take in the neighborhood of probably about 20 minutes to complete the setup and configuration. So because I didn't want to sit here for 20 minutes, I've already deployed an instance, and so we'll take a look at that now. So if you go to provisioning and look at your apps, you can see here I already have a demo BoosterPack already deployed. In it, you can see that there's 2 instances are going. So those are our 2 servers that are running. So if we click on this, we can look at our instances and we can see that we have an Elasticsearch server that's running, and we also have a web server that's running. So in order to find out what your where the BoosterPack is deployed, since we deploy using nip.io, the BoosterPack can be found at https app.the IP address, which would be this, .nip.io. So if we go there, you can see here that here's the address the IP address of the server .nip.io. So when you go and you connect to the server, well, actually it'll take you to the login page where you'll be asked for your credentials. And then once you logged in, it will then take you to the console of our application. Now, as you can see here, I've already preloaded it with a few different documents that we'll kind of go over and show you some of the functionality of the booster pack. But so usually these things start off with adding a document. So here we can drag or we can click on a document to add it. And then once a document is added, what happens is it will automatically go into, it'll automatically get fired into the Kafka queue, where it will then go through a number of different processes. One of the, it will first go through an OCR scanning. And after the OCR scanning is done, it will then go through a number of different AI models to generate the named entities in the document. So, you know, any people names that are in there, any locations that are in there. And then it will then run through another model that will then generate a classification for the document. And then finally, it will create another model that will then generate a title of the document. You know, some documents you get, you know, may not have a title, or it may have a title that's just a file name, which doesn't really help you. So using a model like that really helps with that discovery of those documents. So if I go back to the search page, we can do our document search. So the main type of searching you can do here is you can do full text search or you could do tag search. So in this case, I have scanned in an invoice from here. As you can see, this is the invoice that I scanned in. This is beef company. And then, so if I search for some keywords like beef, here I can see that here is the document that I put in here. It generated the title of invoice from the beef company, which is correct. And then if I click on the tags, it then shows all the different data that it pulled out of here. So it said, okay, this location was Alberta, it was in Calgary, and the organization was the beef company. And then this is in the category of budget. And then it has found a miscellaneous one as well. So once you have this, you can then delete, you can remove tags that aren't needed. You can add a new tag to the document. You can, even if the title isn't correct, you can go in here and you can go ahead and modify the name of the company. You can modify the name of the title. So the next thing we can do is, since we have a bunch of documents already in there, maybe we want to look at all of our budget category or our budget documents. So we have a category of budget, so we do a search for it, and so it brings back the two documents that were automatically tagged with the budget category. We can even then extend that and say, you know, we don't just want the budget ones, we need to know only the ones that were in Toronto. And then here it goes and goes, okay, here is your budget one that was in Toronto. We could even do a combination of full text and category. So we can search for a company that's called OC and has a category of form, and then boom, it brings back our document here. And then we can then, you know, we can click on our download button to download our document. Yeah, so I think that is kind of a general overview on how the document categorization and classification works, and how you can use it to easily add documents, you know, and then categorize the documents, and then be able to retrieve those documents in a really quick and reliable fashion. I think after that, we pass it back to Eric with the next slide.
Sure, I'll get that booted up for everyone here. I think we got a couple slides left here in the FormKiQ slide, but I think it's mostly for Q&A. So let me get that slide going for you. All right, so I believe, yeah, questions and answers at this point. I already saw we have one question coming in. Okay. Okay, one of the coworkers would like to see the demo, and we just ran the demo. So if possible, I believe your coworker should be able to access the whole recording of this webinar and the demo on YouTube shortly after today. Either later today or later in the week, we should have it up on YouTube for your coworker to be able to see that demo. Is there any other questions as well at this time? All right, getting a couple. Let's see here. I have one word that says scale. Are you asking about the scalability of the booster pack or the scalability of the solution? I guess we could, or scale of how many documents. Okay, so Mike or Regan talk about how well the application scales with the documents, and I guess if you have large document libraries and how that might work.
Yeah, I can take that. Yeah, the application scales quite well. It really depends on the size of the server you're running it on. Like the more documents you have, the larger server you're going to need to run it. And then it also depends on how many documents you're processing at a time. But using Kafka, it really Kafka will throttle the number of documents being processed. So you're not going to have, if you drop in 1,000 documents, it's not going to process all 1,000 documents at the same time. It's going to, I think it does a maximum of 3 documents at a time. And because that was the size of the scale of the servers that we were using. But now with Canary allowing those larger monthly bills, you could actually run a very large server now because now you don't have that $300 limit. So the scaling is all really dependent on how large the servers you want to run. But it does scale very well because it uses the microservices infrastructure.
Okay, and I believe you did cover this during the demo, but how easy is it to add more metadata? I believe we're looking at the tagging there. It looked to be pretty straightforward in terms of the process for adding more metadata to the documents.
Yeah, you can add as much metadata as you want. There is no limitation on the Elasticsearch. It only shows you it just pages through the tags a number at a time. That's also configurable using the API because they're all API calls. So if you wanted to use your own system, you could then integrate with that API and you can retrieve as many as you want. But from our UI, yeah, you can add as many tags as you like.
Actually, this dovetails nicely into the next question, which is about APIs and accessing that. So this is from another attendee. Is they have an ABP application using ASP.NET Core, Angular UI, and it comes with a document module. Can they add this booster pack or solution to their own to enhance the retrieval process? As you mentioned that it can be built using microservices. So they're wondering if it's doable through an API.
Yeah, 100%. The API is it's on the internet along with the UI, so you can access it from anywhere. It's protected through tokens that are tied to your user account that you log in as. So yeah, you absolutely could incorporate this into any product you want. We're big believers in being able to integrate different products into have them communicate with each other, and so that's how we built the application.
Fantastic. The next question that we have that's come in is, could PDF documents be directly imported into the app to retrieve and populate a database, or do PDF documents need to be first trained for skills in doc format?
The nice thing about it is no training required. The models are all pre-trained, and so you could use the API directly to then upload all the PDF documents into the booster pack, and then they all would just get processed. Yeah.
Awesome. The next question we do have, I believe, is related to support of the solution itself. So if someone's looking to implement the booster pack, what kind of support can they, how is the support system? So I guess they're looking at the support system around the booster pack. I believe we have that mostly through Slack and via email, as was mentioned during Regan's presentation. But if there's any other details you'd like to touch on in terms of support of the booster pack itself.
Well, the other thing too is the GitHub issues page, right? So,
right.
Because it's out there and it's open, if you do run into issues, we're actually pretty responsive when it comes to responding to issues. So if you do have a problem and you don't, you're not sure, like there's Slack and email, there's also issues, which is great because then we can add it into, if we feel like we do need to make a hot fix, then that's available to us.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that. Is there any more questions at this point? They came in fast and furious there. So I expect we might have a few more that will come in as we finish up today's webinar and presentation.
There's
So
also
I think,
something.
oh, sorry.
I was just going to mention one thing that sort of questions that was on my mind. I was kind of answered by this. When we work with these models, that was a point in time. That was like, Q1 of this year. So open source models are trying to catch up to the commercial models, and maybe they won't get there, but they're going to keep improving. So one thing that we've been cognizant of is that as you go, if you're implementing this, is you may find that there's new and better models that you want to use instead of the ones that were there in Q1. So that is something that will be really interesting to see. So what is already there now is probably better than what was there in Q1. And by the time we get to the end of the year and next year, I think we're going to see even better models. So as they try to compete with commercial, I think we're going to see a lot of innovation in the models that are available to us.
Fantastic.
I would just add to maybe Regan wasn't quite aware, but when the BoosterPack is installed, it actually grabs the latest modules that are available and then uses those ones.
Go off.
We do have another question that has come in, and it is there international languages supported for the OCR capability?
That's a great question. Right now, the only language that's built into the Tesseract is English, but adding additional languages is a very trivial thing that we could do as well. It was mainly based on the size of the image. So yeah, if you wanted to have your own custom languages, it'd be pretty easy to modify the solution to support other languages.
Yeah, like French. Yeah, so one thing you could do is you could put in an issue saying, hey, how come there's no French? And then Mike will have to look at that.
That's what the support area is for. But I do have another question that's come in as well, and that is, with the new LLM, will you have a feature to ask questions to your files, chat with your files almost?
You want me to talk about that, Mike?
Yeah, you can do that. Sure.
Yeah. So, well, I'll start. You can jump in when you realize everything I've said is horribly wrong. So basically, we didn't find, I guess, an open source chat interface to integrate with this at this point. We have worked in our product, FormKiQ. We have been working with the OpenAI API, and we're going to be doing some experiments with some of the other offerings with the commercial models. We do expect that at some point we will find an open source chat concept that we could be looking at. But right now, we've basically found that, unfortunately, the commercial models they're so much better suited for that at this point. We actually just kind of use the commercial model in our commercial product. So that's where we're at right now. But as I was saying, things are moving quickly. So there could be a time where it really makes sense to be able to run something like that. Now, Mike, do you have some technical details that I might have glazed over?
No, I think you're right. It really comes down to processing power, and if you're training your own module or your own models, it gets quite intensive in the resources that we need. Doing something like ChatGPT integration with this solution would make a lot of sense, but then it would kind of take away from the open source part of the application, and you would need to have this commercial part with it too. But yeah, adding support for ChatGPT is definitely something that could be added to the BoosterPack.
And I should also mention that we have another project that does demonstrate that is also open. Our FormKiQ core does have that integration within it that we do use for tagging in a similar way to this project, but that of course relies on an OpenAI key.
We do have another question that's come in as well. Are there any restrictions for the max number of pages that can be imported with a PDF document, or I guess any single document?
There are no hard limitations. It really comes down to the server that you're running it on. If you're running a small server and throwing large documents at it, then it might just take a really long time for it to do. But there is no inherent size in documents that you can add to it.
Awesome. Please allow the questions to keep coming in. Oh, here we go. Another one's popped up. Is there a bulk upload process or database connector to streamline the whole setup with an automation workflow for document uploading, or would you need to create your own?
The upload page supports being to add multiple documents at the same time. If you wanted to do your own processing, you could use the API to then do a bulk upload as well. So there's no real restriction from an API or a platform perspective.
Thank you very much. I'm going to advance to the next slide here, where maybe you can provide a little more information on how someone might be able to get in touch with FormKiQ as well.
Sure. I mean, the easiest way is to hop on our website, formkiq.com. You can contact us there. We're also on LinkedIn. Those are kind of our two places. We don't really hang out on the other socials. We're getting too old for that kind of thing.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm going to hop over to my other slide deck I've got here as well. Just to finish today, although if there are any other questions, please do submit them and we will answer them as they come in. So a little more, if you want to become a BoosterPack builder like Mike and Regan that you saw today, we are calling on Canadian businesses with experience and expertise in emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence or augmented reality, virtual reality. We have a large listing on our website of technologies that we are very, very interested in and would love to have a BoosterPack built for. So if you do take a look at that technology listing and realize that you do have the skills and the knowledge to be building a BoosterPack, please do check out submitting an expression of interest on our website. The perks of doing so is, of course, connections to new potential partners and resources through the DARE community, as well as we promote the BoosterPack. There is revenue as well for becoming a BoosterPack builder. BoosterPack builders are paid $50,000 Canadian for building a BoosterPack. So if you are interested, I do suggest applying now via an EOI or expression of interest on our website. It's a fairly easy application form to submit. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do so. And we do recommend it if you are interested. We do have another question that has come in as I am doing my little BoosterPack spiel here. So for Mike and Regan, does OCR work with PDF docs that are printed on both sides?
I'd say yes. Yeah, it's like we're talking about like any digital PDF on both sides, it would still see each as its own individual page. And then of course, if you were doing a sort of a scan to print and then you digitized it, then again, yeah, it would still treat it as if they were two separate pages. It wouldn't care that it's printing on two sides.
Okay, thank you for that. If there's any last minute questions, please do submit them now. Of course, if you need to get in touch with any of the DARE team here at Canary, we can be reached at dare.admin@canary.ca. And please do keep an eye on your inbox for more future emails, as we do have quite a jam-packed webinar schedule coming up into the latter half of this year, as well as the launch of the AWS services that we did mention earlier in the webinar. Last call for questions here. If there are any other questions that might be lingering in your mind, please feel free to submit them now. With that said, I would very much like to thank both Mike and Regan for taking the time to develop and introduce the BoosterPack today. We're extremely excited to have it available in our BoosterPack catalog. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do so. And a question came in at the last minute. So we do have one question here, and it is blockchain integration. Is that something that is currently available?
Something we've definitely talked about over the years, actually, about how to integrate with blockchain. So we have some ideas on how. I think the biggest issue is that there's never been enough of enough feedback of actually going ahead and putting the time in to design something like that. So I think it would really depend on the demand from the community and large and potential customers for our commercial product as well.
Thank you for the response there, Regan. If there are no other questions at this time, again, I would like to thank Mike and Regan, and I do highly suggest checking out the BoosterPack today if you haven't yet. Do hope everybody has a great day. Thank you for coming out to the webinar and participating here today. Love the questions that we saw and the amount of participation. So we shall see you on the next one.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
There's one with database integration. So yeah, it wouldn't be too difficult at all to use the API and then have that load into Postgres. Mike, do you have any specifics on that? Because I know you're a Postgres fan yourself, or at least you were before you became a serverless convert.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of plugins for Elasticsearch and Postgres, so you can migrate data in between them. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Was this related to the blockchain question? Was it separate?
It's a new question.
No, there is no new one yet, I don't believe. Oh, wait, we do have one. Yes, sorry, I almost missed this one. So is that the one that Regan jumped on? Is compatibility issues with database integration? Okay.
Yeah, and it is possible because Postgres does have some full text search capability. You could actually try and code up to replace Elastic with Postgres. It's probably, with the level of complexity we have, it probably would not be a difficult thing to do. We're still bigger fans of using Elastic for full text search because of its robustness, but I think it's certainly nothing stopping you from switching that out with Postgres as well if you wanted to replace Elastic with Postgres, or as Mike said, stream to Postgres, have that working together.
Thank you for the response there. Again, I'll last call for questions here before we wrap up today. If you do think of a question after the BoosterPack ends, you can submit it on our Slack workspace. Both Mike and Regan are on there as well. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you very much again, everybody, for your participation. It was a fantastic BoosterPack launch, and we look forward to seeing you in the Slack workspace and in the DARE program. Have fun building.
Thanks, Eric.